Okay, so today what I'm going to show is I'm going to show four different age groups for hanging the hanger and how their body is different in each phase. It starts from being kind of uncoordinated to being very skilled at it to once again being uncoordinated as you get older. So the first phase is a 4-year-old, and so um, what happens with the 4-year-old is they are very wide. One thing that I've always learned is if you ever want to see proper body mechanics or anything like that, learn from a child because they always lift with their legs. They always do everything the right way. But with this one, what they do is they're statically standing and holding the hanger, and their base of support is wide. Their legs are as wide as their shoulders, and their center of gravity is along midline, so they're all centered up. And so the preparatory stage is weight shifting. So they shift their weight forward first, and they kind of stumble. They're very uncoordinated at this point still. Not very, but they are uncoordinated compared to, say, like us, or say someone of an age of an adolescent. They're still uncoordinated. And typically us, we hold hangers almost like a 90 degree when we're about to hang out. We use proper mechanics. They tend to not hold it like that. They keep it to the side, and they kind of just do a flexion of the arm and kind of stumble in, take a step. The proprioception is off while they're hanging the hanger, and so they kind of stumble a little bit. Once they hang the hanger, they come real quick. It's not a fluid movement. They retract real fast, and that is the hanger of a 4-year-old. The next stage is a 10-year-old, and so they use a little bit better body mechanics, such as in the shoulder, they use flexion and they use a little bit of extension instead of kind of just flexion of the shoulder and then putting it in. They use flexion, extension, and they slightly put it in. Their base of support as well is they stay wide as well, as wide as their shoulders, and the center of gravity is good as well. So they do kind of a open chain movement, proximal distal. So everything's from proximal distal movement. Everything gets led with the shoulder activating first, and then elbow, and then hand. And so this is where they start getting a little bit more coordinated movements. And so the next stage is a 21-year-old. So they have way better body mechanics and coordination. They actually, like as we do now, when you're about to hang a hanger, you kind of keep it right here at a 90 degrees. And that's usually the proper starting stage for hanging a hanger. So we start off, so this is kind of my age group right here. We start off at a 90 degrees. I lean forward, so I'm able to lean forward in one flow movement, just stick the hanger with good proprioception. I know where I'm going. I know where my hand is leading me to, and I choose the perfect where I want it. And so flexion and extension happen in a fluid movement. So you got flexion right here, extension, back to flexion, proper body mechanics, well calibrated movements, because you are usually early adulthood is when you're at your peakest for coordination and stuff like that. So this is where you're starting to peak out on well calibrated coordination. And so the last one is 71-year-old and up. And so this is where you kind of start seeing a decrease in eye-hand coordination, a decrease in coordination overall. And that could be just because you're aging, your brain's aging. Those signals aren't as fast as it would for, say, someone like my age. So they have a little bit harder time. So right here for a 71-year-old is they do the same thing, go into flexion and extension, but instead they're doing a lot of compensating. And so they could have like arthritis in the wrist or whatever the case may be. So instead of like us, we hold the hanger to the side and place it like that, they could possibly hold it with rest flexion, just like that, and placing it due to probably the wrist not being able to extend fully, whatever the case may be. And the flow of movement is uneven, so they might be a little uncoordinated. Say especially if you have someone with tremors, usually a lot of people develop tremors around this age. Their coordination might be off, and their proprioception might be off. So it's definitely crazy how the development of hangers go through from a 4-year-old to kind of being uncoordinated, barely developing coordination, proprioception, and all that good stuff, to being very calibrated as a 21-year-old, to once again, as you get older, you start noticing the coordination and high hand coordination and that calibration decrease. So that is the differences between the 4 age groups of hang and hanger.